looking at John chapter 21, and it's one of the resurrection appearances of Jesus. After Jesus rose from the dead, things start to get mysterious, and he appears and disappears, and this is one of those. It's the last encounter. The whole of the Gospel of John is constructed around encounters between Jesus and different people, and in every encounter things change. Things change in our understanding of who Jesus is, and things change in the people to whom that revelation has been given. And so it is in this very last encounter. And so you have the context of a resurrection appearance and something even now new about Jesus that's coming out. Let's read a little from chapter 21. Later Jesus appeared again to the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. This is how it happened. Several of the disciples were there: Simon Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and the other two disciples. Simon Peter said, "I'm going fishing." "We'll come too," they all said. So they went out into the boat, but they caught nothing all night. At dawn the disciples saw Jesus standing on the beach, but they couldn't see who he was. He called out, "Friends, have you caught any fish?" "No," they replied. Then he said, "Throw out your net on the right-hand side of the boat, and you'll get plenty of fish." So they did, and they couldn't draw in the net because there were so many fish in it. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he'd stripped for work, jumped into the water, and swam ashore. The others stayed with the boat, and they pulled the loaded net to the shore, for they were only out about 300 feet. When they got there, they saw that a charcoal fire was burning, and fish were frying over it, and there was bread. "Bring some of the fish you've caught," Jesus said. So Simon Peter went aboard and dragged the net to the shore. There were about 153 large fish, and yet the net hadn't torn. So there's this wonderful mixture of what's natural and what's supernatural. They see Jesus, but they don't recognize him. They still behave according to the promptings of their own character. You know, it's Peter who says, "I'm going fishing." It's Peter who leaps into the water impulsively to reach Jesus, to find out more. And you have to ask the question first, what is the writer trying to tell us through this? And I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is the contrast between the wasted activity and the fruitful presence. The wasted activity when they try to do something on their own, and the fruitful presence of when they come and bring what they have to Jesus. You see, there's something interesting here. They're back where they started. Jesus has died. Jesus has risen from the dead. They've seen him. They've witnessed to it. And yet, they've come back where they started. This was the place where Jesus called them from. This is the place they've gone back to. And there's reminiscences of that first encounter. In the miracle of catching fish, the same thing's been repeated. But do you see the contrast first? Do you see that they have spent a night of wasted activity without Jesus? And then when they see Jesus, he has everything sorted already. Here's the point. Once Jesus has called you, once Jesus has put his hand upon your shoulder and summoned you into a new way of living, there is really no way you can go back to the old life. You might find a call upon you, an impulse to go back where you used to be, to the old way of doing things. But your heart won't be in it. Honestly, you cannot go back to your old life and find it fruitful anymore. And this is the first thing that comes to me out of this passage. The disciples have gone back to what they were used to, what they were good at, what they were professional in, and yet it was just a waste of time. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do even that. Can you really go back to your old ways? And in the middle of going back to their old ways, they get a reminder from this new way of living. They get a voice calling them. Still, a stranger appears on the shore. Maybe it's morning light and they're looking through a mist and they see they see, who is it? And then the disciple whom Jesus loved, which is generally interpreted to be a code word for the author, for John himself. He said, it's the Lord. And again, it's John who recognises, and it's Peter who responds. John who thinks, and Peter who does. So John is figuring it out, and Peter is already in the water. Isn't that wonderful? And when Jesus shows up, things change. So you have a night of wasted time and a morning of abundance. And he starts to deal with them, and that's where the encounter really begins. But let's leave it there for this morning. Let's just think for yourself. Are you trying to go back to something that you've left behind? Because in that wasted activity, Jesus still has something to say to you. Amen. May God bless you.